Everybody, it's so good to see you all again.
Same here.
Yeah.
I don't know if you feel this way, but I feel like this is the closest I'm ever going to get to a Real Housewives reunion. That I'm like really feeling the spirit of Andy Cohen take over me.
You can do anything you want. Maybe who will pick fights? I got you, Hayley. I can't believe you said that about me when I wasn't there for the shoot.
And I've got the receipts right here. All day we've been talking about at these panels sort of the power of visibility, and that was something that we talked a lot about in our initial conversation. And I was thinking, Hayley, about how cool it was to watch you tell Tegan like how amazing it was to have Tegan and Sara as role models in your life. And I'm curious for all of you, what was the first time you sort of saw yourself represented in pop culture, whether it was a queer artist or a straight artist or a musician or other kind of celebrity? What were sort of the first kind of moments of seeing some form of entertainment and thinking, that's me, like I feel seen?
I actually, it was Sara. I saw her down the hall. We were 15. I knew she was carrying on a secret relationship, and I was like, she's gay for sure. And I knew she was gay and all that stuff, but she was closeted. So I was like, I'm scared. She made it worse for me, in fact. But anyway, I went and saw the movie All Over Me in 1997. I have the ticket stub still. Yeah, really amazing. I mean, I haven't watched it recently, but Leisha Haley, who was in The Murmurs, was in the film, and I wrote in my journal, and I know because I looked at it recently in all cap locks. Like I was like, she is so hot. All the actors in the movie were so good, and it was really gay. And Alan kept covering his eyes every time someone made out on screen. And then I said something I can't say in this room, but I remember coming home and being like, gay people can be cool. But that was the first time, and I was 17 years old.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, what about you? Oh, Sarah, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was going to say
I
shouldn't be allowed to answer that question. I was going to say Joey McIntyre from New Kids on the Block.
It's confusing.
I'm just going to let that float out there.
Well, for me, since I was born in 1989, it's always been Prince, and
Yeah.
he's just a legend, and I don't know, I just aspire to be.
That's awesome.
To piggyback off of what you were saying, this is like so awkward because I'm like fangirling with them on the couch. But no, Tegan and Sara was like my big influence because they were cool and edgy, but then they still wrote really good music. Like they were bops that people say now. They were bops. And I just remember I was like, that's me. Like I want to be cool, but I want to do pop music. And I want to write music that you just can't get out of your head. And that to me was this like opening that narrative and that door for me to be myself.
And for me, it was Sylvester. Sylvester was an icon that I looked up to, and always wanted to be like. And he was just fierce, and being himself all the time. And when I used to listen to some of Sylvester records, and me and my uncle, he taught me a lot about Sylvester. It just opened so many doors for me just to be myself and just get out there and live my truth. So Sylvester for me, and also RuPaul.
Love that. I'm thinking as queer people, we spend our whole lives kind of looking for ourselves in sort of straight people's stories. You hear the love song from a straight artist, and you're like, if I can make this work for me, I can find myself in here, I can find what's relatable about this. And I think what's really cool about having so many visible LGBTQ artists is that now we're at a time when we're sort of asking straight audiences to do the thing that we've been doing our whole lives. And I wonder, as you've been putting out music and going through your careers, do you find that there is, that audiences are willing to do that work, or do you find that there's still sort of some resistance or hesitation of people being like, oh, that's not for me. I don't see myself in this.
Yeah, I see hesitation, but I mean, it's the creative field of art and music, and people who could appreciate art and music should be able to appreciate, the love of it. And like, if somebody's expressing love just to another human, it shouldn't matter if it's male to male, female to male. It's just like, it's art, and they just need to experience it for what it is, because that's why we all love music and art, for people to be creative and share their different walks of lives, even if it's not our own walk of life.
I think as human beings, we're scared of the unknown, and we're scared of what we don't know and what we don't understand. And so that's just this natural feeling that you feel where it's like, oh, that's not for me, and that I don't know anything about that, and I don't want to know anything about that. And so I think what's so important about this summit and what we're doing is just kind of pushing people to be brave, to grow, and to learn, because even for myself, like, you become stubborn and you don't want to learn. And a part of life is to become better people and to help each other and to help your kids and your kids' kids. And so that's what's so scary, and that's what's so difficult for people sometimes to support, people like us.
For me, I think that it's just that there's a hesitation because people are afraid of what social media has to say and what the public has to say about, some of the creative process of maybe working with a gay artist. And a lot of times, I just work with the people that are not afraid to work with any queer artists and to get out there and do it. But I think the hesitation comes with a lot of social media and worrying about what people are going to say on social media.
I agree.
I was thinking about Tegan and Sara. You put out a song a few years ago called "Boyfriend," and that sort of talks about gender roles and relationships from kind of a universal way, but it also has a very kind of clear queer lens. And I remember at the time you were sort of like, I don't know if like people are going to sort of take the time to see themselves in this. And now that song's been out there and for a while, what were your fears real? Like, or did you find that connected with everybody?
It's such a tough question because just to disclose our age quickly, we're 38, and when I started,
This is why she didn't get to be on the cover.
I'm 38. Tegan just turned 18. Round of applause, everyone. Round of applause. Finally, my younger sister is out on the road with me. It's been a lifelong dream. Just to get real, when I first started writing music, I was writing about myself. I was writing about girls. I was a teenager, and I was coming out in the 1990s where it was actually just illegal to get married, to adopt children. All of the sort of...
I would have been upset if you tried to adopt a child as a teenager.
I mean, I was a do-gooder. But I think I was like looking out at a landscape that was inhospitable. And for me, one of the sort of defense mechanisms I had was, how do I make whoever is sort of in charge or a tastemaker like me? And so for a long time, it was about convincing straight people and men to like us. And I did a lot of labor, like emotional labor, telling people why what I was saying would relate to them. I spent a lot of the first 10 years of our career talking to journalists, convincing them. I mean, that was the role that we were put in, was a defensive role. How the sort of journalist sits down and they say, tell me why I should like this. Tell me why I should relate to this. And I just don't fucking care about that anymore. And I just don't care if people like Boyfriend and they're, like, I just don't. Like, I actually just don't even ask myself that question anymore, because for so long, I think I ignored the people who did like it.
Well, and now we enjoy the process of going to a radio station, and they're like, I mean, they don't add the song, but they'll play it because you visit. So they'll be like, all right, everybody, so we've got Tegan and Sara's Boyfriend coming up, and it's about you guys, and you like girls, so it's a song. It's about
We love gay people,
we love
though.
gay people. We love
gay people.
boyfriends.
Everybody
it's-
deserves
It's
equality.
awesome. We're gonna play it one time. Here we go.
Yes,
Bye, Tegan and
yes.
Sara. Thanks for coming. And we love the feeling now. Now I'm like, we're completely still.
Crawling out of their skin. So I don't know if that answers your question, but that's really where I'm at.
Well, it brings up something I was thinking about earlier, and like I was thinking about Hayley. You had a song "Curious" that has like a similar message, and I wondered if it would mean anything more to you if like a super straight frat bro came up and was like, Hayley, that song "Curious" about the girl who can't make up her mind, I felt that. Like, would that mean something more, or is that the same as any other fan who like connects with the song?
No, the frat boy would mean a lot. Yeah. It would. I've had a couple of frat boys come to my concerts and they're like, girls like girls is dope. And I'm like, yeah, man. Yeah. No, but like what you were saying, it's just like we all, I think, no matter who you are or where you come from, we all just want an opportunity to be heard and to share our stories and to find our people. And so, yeah, I mean, releasing Curious, I didn't think that was directly made for frat boys specifically, but I do think as a musician, as an artist, we all go through love and loss and lust and, sometimes depression and all these things. And like, that's what connects all of us. And so no matter what your sexuality is, why should we be put in a box? We all have those same feelings. We all get heartbroken. So why are we different?
Freedia, we're in a wonderful time where it seems like the entire world wants to collaborate with you, put you in their songs, in their videos. You have an ice cream flavor, which is like insane. Yeah. And I think the really cool part about, obviously there's all this visibility that comes with that, and like I think about what it would mean for so many people to buy a big Freedia Ben & Jerry's ice cream. But as you know, all these people reach out to you and want to collaborate on different things. Do you ever feel protective of the scene that you come from and what you do, and sort of worry about like how to share it with the world, but also still preserve it and protect it?
Yeah, I'm actually going through that right now, as you mentioned. So I'm in a process of where a lot of people are reaching out for collaborations and different stuff to incorporate the sound of bounce music in their music. And I'm open to every walk of life. Whoever wants to collaborate, I'm down to collaborate. But I am also trying to make sure that I keep it authentic to New Orleans and my sound and what I do. But the most part, I just get out there and keep working and keep creating opportunities for myself and for New Orleans and for other people to cross over into my world and to get an opportunity to be able to, come with a new sound and something funky and fresh for their fans. So it's all about connecting with individuals and just being able to network and get out there. For a long time for me, the music was just captivated in New Orleans. And so I performed the first 10, 12 years of my career doing homework in New Orleans and getting people to like me and to understand me. And for the most part, I had all the girls in New Orleans. I had all the women around New Orleans. And it was a journey to get the men to like it. So once like you said, the frat boys, it was the guys for me that once the guys was like, oh yeah, you bring all the women, you make all the girls shake their ass. So, I learned that once I got all the girls, the guys will follow. So I kind of knew what I needed to do.
I love that. Do any of you else feel sort of protective of queer culture and sort of as it gets more mainstream that, you're happy to share it, but also like, hang on a minute, let's not lose what makes this so special?
Everyone's so polite. I mean, I feel thrilled. I mean, I know we all talked about this a few weeks ago when we were together, but we were so lonely for so much of the early part of our career. There just was so little like happening like community-wise because it was pre-social media, and it would have meant so much if someone in our community had reached out, someone who had more success and sort of gave us advice or offered support. And so for me, this moment where there's just this like passion and love and this everyone, it feels like, is trying to embrace LGBTQ artists and art and music and culture, and it feels very exciting for me. I definitely don't feel like I want to keep it to the underground or go back to the way it was. I think it's up to each of us to obviously protect ourselves and make sure that we're, that the collaborations feel sincere, that the events we're doing feel like they're not just vanity, like that there's some substance below it. But I have never felt more comfortable or more happy in the music industry than in this current moment. Every day, it's just our social feeds are full of beautiful LGBTQ artists, and I hope they all become incredibly huge and successful, and we can retire. And yeah.
Well, Makonnen, I was thinking about one of my favorite moments of the roundtable that we did is when you said something along the lines of like, a lot of people get their inspiration from the gays but don't want to give it up to the gays. Yeah. What is the sort of best way to kind of honor that inspiration and for those who are inspired by the community, and how do we sort of change that hesitation to borrow but maybe not give credit?
I don't know. I just feel like now, I think with events like this, a lot of the creators are being able to be shown and showcased and get, their recognition for what they do. And I just feel like the artists that we've been supporting just needs to support us as well on their platform and let them know that, I don't know. It's hard to say this is where I'm getting my swag from. You know what I mean? Because if you guys found out, then you guys would go and see the source. But it's like, people just need to be open and say, because I feel like the queer culture has been pushing a lot of the hip hop and R&B culture. And it's just a lot of people behind the scenes, as in the makeup artists and the fashion designers and all these people, they don't really get their recognition. And everybody is kind of praising the artist on stage. And the artist on stage never really tells about the team. And so the team is really the queer team that's making it look so majestic. So.
We were talking in our first conversation about sort of all the ways that sometimes the music industry has, not in any sort of overt discrimination, but has sort of in more coded or subtle ways has tried to say you're too much, or you're too gay to be here, or you don't belong here, or you're not for everybody. And I'm interested in kind of hearing about your experiences with getting that message, because I think that is probably really pervasive still, and I think identifying the ways that happens is sort of one way to help eliminate it. So have you had moments where you sort of feel like you're getting the message of it's subtle, it's coded, but it's saying, you're too gay to be here, or you're too much?
I think my approach going into the industry was like, nobody can know I'm gay, even though I am gay, and they'll probably know, they can't know, and so that was my approach. And then, I would turn down anything, any gay media or any of that stuff, because I was like, I just want to be an artist. I just want to be respected for my music. And then what we were talking about before is just, you realize why are you pushing this down when you could be breaking the stereotype and creating the new norm of what a lesbian looks like, or what she is like, and that she's not threatening and she's actually kind of nice, and and so I had this turn in my career when I started seeing the support in my music, and I took that label back. I threw it on my face, and I was like, no, who I am is really cool, and I'm not going to let that boss me around anymore. Because I think growing up, that bossed me around. It stopped me from doing things. It's stopped me from hanging out with certain people. And it was all just me judging myself. So a lot of it came just from myself.
The call was coming from inside the house?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, in the industry, I went through a lot of traumatizing experiences where people wouldn't sign me, or they weren't interested because they were men and they didn't think I was hot or, straight. And so that was difficult. And then I was like, okay, well, how am I going to fill an arena? And then I was like, well, whatever, girls buy music, I'll just focus on them. And so I just continued to just be myself and kind of let the men come. They see the girls, show up, and then they follow. So, yeah.
I don't know if this is sort of what you were getting at too, but the idea of you're too gay, or I feel like not to I want to be careful on how I say this, but I think there's been an enormous wave of support. But I think that support can be dangerous because we could start excluding or segregating LGBTQ people. So I think sometimes there's some good-natured, we'll give you your own website. We'll give you your own, issue. And I think that for me as an LGBTQ artist, it feels like there is still this undertow in the way we're covered, in the way that we are supported, which is still, it's still separate. It's still not, you don't belong all the time. You belong this month. You belong in
June.
this section. You belong in June.
That's it.
Or in August. It's fine, but but I think that's one thing that I still think as an industry and as a culture that we need to be careful about doing. We should celebrate our LGBTQ artists, but we should be careful not to celebrate them into their own room where only LGBTQ people go and find them.
You better say it.
Right, we should be there all the time. So I do appreciate all this stuff that's happening. I don't mean to. I mean, this is all really incredible, but sometimes I would get nervous that we think we're walking forward, but we're on one of those walking, like we're actually moving backwards. And I see myself behind glass going, "You're going backwards." Yeah, I took LSD a lot as a teenager, so.
So just to touch on that really quick, for me, I got a lot of resistance from a lot of labels before I got signed to a major label. I put out my own projects for a very long time and did all of my own promo, all of my own work. And to finally get with a label and start opening other doors for me, it created more opportunities, but it also let me know that I need to get out there and continue to be me. Because when I was, growing up younger, I would get out there and just do me. But now at this point in my life, it's the same way. I get out there and go show these people who I am, and I keep on opening doors and breaking barriers. And that's the thing for me. That's knocking these barriers down, opening doors, and creating opportunities for younger LGBTQ artists out there who cannot be afraid to be themselves and say, "Oh, I'm going to get out there and do me." That's what it's about for me.
Yeah. I want to save time for some audience questions, but in the spirit of making space for other LGBTQ artists and uplifting others like us, what are the best ways to do that and the ways that you have found most successful? I mean, Tegan, on the round table, you talked about hitting people up on Twitter and meeting them at shows. You've taken queer artists out on tour. What are the ways that you all have sort of found are ways to make room for other queer artists and support others, sort of the next generation coming up?
Just making opportunities. There's a lot of queer artists that have a lot of different skills that maybe I can say for myself that I wouldn't have, but it's like I would love to collaborate and we could all bring it in together to make, a greater project. And so, just being open and looking for the creatives and, being receptive and giving people a chance, because that's the biggest thing that the LGBT don't get is a chance. And once they get a chance, they usually go over and beyond. So that's what I feel like we can do.
Great. Well, then let's take some audience questions. Right here, over here.
Hi there, my name is Jake. My question was, how do you guys navigate the line between tokenization of queer folk and just getting recognized for the things that you're doing for the community? Because I find that, you guys were talking about how a lot of the time it can feel like a cycle of like, oh, we're getting this press and they're doing these things, but somehow there's still all this homophobia and transphobia in the media as well. And so I was wondering, like, as artists in the song industry, how you guys kind of navigated that line.
That's a great question. I know for me, it kind of harkens back to the boyfriend story. Ultimately, we just always talk about it. We bring it up in every meeting. We talk about it, in our own organization. We talk about it in the press. We talk about it on stage. And ultimately, I think it's not like any of us have the answers on how to fix it. But I think we want to participate in trying to, basically disrupt and rebuild the system. And I do think that it feels very much like that is what we're trying to do as an industry. I think we are all trying to look at all of the systemic problems that are still within this, in the music business and talk about it. I don't know if there are answers, but for us, it's just constantly bringing it up and making it uncomfortable. Sometimes at moments of real awesome, great meeting, everything's going great, everyone's patting us on the back, and then Sarah will just lob something incredibly uncomfortable into the middle of the conversation. And I just think well, that's how you do it, just don't get comfortable and just keep disrupting.
Send Sarah and she'll do it.
Anybody else want to add on that, or should we move on to another question? I think over here.
Oh, here? Oh, hello. Hi, Tegan and Sara.
I was going to go to... Oh, okay. All the lights are bright, and I can't quite see.
That's okay.
Nolan's freaking out.
Panicking. We'll start here.
I just wanted to say I love you, Hayley.
I love you too.
Hi. And my sister loves Tegan and Sara too.
I love your matching
Yeah.
plaid vest.
Yes.
Hi.
Okay.
Do you have a question?
No, just wanted to
Just
say
saying
that.
hi. What's up?
All right.
Well, yeah.
All right.
All right.
Hi.
Hi.
I have a question. I have a question.
Okay.
Can I take a picture with you, guys?
Okay.
After you can. It's
more of a request.
We'll save it for after. Go ahead.
Hi, yeah, I love you all. I love you all too. Especially hi, Freedia. I don't know if you met me. My name's Amazon Ashley.
How you doing?
How you doing, girl? And I'm a huge fan, but I danced for Miley for many years. And the first show we did in the States, one of her fans threw a super big gulp of like soda right in my face, and it was just like, it broke my heart. And I'm just like, I know like being black and being like transgendered is like we have it like tenfold, you know. And so I'm wondering, like, has anybody ever thrown a super big gulp of soda in your face? You know, like, how do you overcome that? Because sometimes, like, when that happened to me, and it wasn't just that, like, she was banned in a couple countries from performing, like, she was banned out of Dominican Republic, and I kind of felt like it was my fault. Like, if she wasn't dancing with me, if she wasn't working with me, like, she could do a show in the Dominican Republic. Like, how do you deal with, like, that type of, like, the negative reaction? Like, how does that affect you, like, every day?
So for me, I would have drunk the drink first of all, and I would have probably went into, I'm very professional when I get on stage, so kind of when things happen like that for me, I would have probably flipped my head and started dropping into a dance or something, you know, to kind of throw that pressure. But sometimes you just got to get out there and, you know, give people a lesson to learn. Like, I probably would have jumped off stage.
Yeah, like, I didn't want to, I didn't want to be that angry black woman.
I understand, but sometimes you have to fight for what you believe in and fight for your rights. You know, someone just coming up throwing a big soda in your face, most of the time security would have removed them. You just got to keep being fierce, and you got to keep living your best life. A lot of times we're going to have things that try to knock us down, obstacles that we come into in life, and I just keep praying and pushing.
Amen. Thank you. I love you. Keep doing you.
3 more questions? More raise hands?
Right here in the front.
Danica, my Billboard coworker.
Oh, hi.
Hey, Danica.
Hey. Okay, so I wasn't going to say, but my name's Danica. I'm a senior editor at Billboard. And as an African-American woman who is straight, I have felt sexism, I've felt racism, and so I feel like it is my duty to be very sensitive to others and what they're going through. And I honestly didn't know anything about pronouns until maybe like a year ago. And when I heard the they, them pronoun, I was like, what do you mean, they, them? What's that? I'm confused, like, they're both, they're neither, what does that mean? And so I went on YouTube, like any responsible journalist, and started watching videos, and I thought to myself, okay, I'm gonna go up to people and start asking what their pronouns are. So specifically, I was at a party last night with someone who I knew identified as gay, and I said to them, you know, what's your pronouns? And they said, what do you mean? They, them, he, her, and he looked at me very, like, kind of shocked and almost, like, offended that I would think he wasn't he or that. And he was like, I don't know what that is. And so I realized, firstly, that just because you are in the queer community doesn't mean that you're 100% okay with everything in the queer community. And so that was a kind of shocking realization for me. So number one, where can people go that want to really, who are part of the straight community but really want to learn, go to educate themselves? Because I realized that not every source is probably the best source. And number two, is it disrespectful to go up to somebody and ask them what their pronouns are?
I want to say, you know, I think that the internet has a lot of downsides, but one of the things that I love about the internet is it does allow us the privacy to educate ourselves on our own time. We're gonna make mistakes. Everybody makes mistakes. We have a trans sister, and even within our own family, I mean, we've been gay as for like 25 years, and people say weird shit to us all the time, and it's just, it's about having patience. It's about being open. It's about dialogue. It is about self-education. Yes, it's hard to give you one example of like where to go on the internet, but I think as somebody who is empathetic and who is interested, I think going onto the internet, absorbing as many, whether it's like pieces or videos or perspectives or whatever it is, and be willing to make those mistakes. apologize and move on. I mean, I think that most of us, we just want to feel human. We don't want to feel like we're super weird and like a sciencey thing or something. You make a mistake. Sorry about that. Let me know how I can do that right the next time. Great, perfect. Let's move on. And I found that has really worked, at least in our own experiences with, people in our community who are transitioning or people who you misgender or misidentify or whatever. That's worked for us.
And also to add, GLAAD is really amazing.
Yeah, GLAAD is great.
I myself went to GLAAD and they offer like free education. So if
Great
you
media training.
have questions or it's like like anything, they will help you and they're an amazing resource. And
I think it should be almost required, at least within the church.
you should really learn
community.
this stuff in school. Yeah. It's just stupid. But GLAAD is great, so.
And a lot of stuff, a lot of times these things change, like you said, transitions. So, just a quick example. One of my friends, I used to call him Randy. And one day I saw him and I was like, what's going on, Randy? She was like, girl, don't call me that. I'm Raven. And I'm like, okay. But like, I've been calling you Randy since I've been knowing you. So it's all about, transitions. And she like, well, girl, don't call me that no more. I'm like, okay, Miss Thing, I understand. But, so it's all about just finding out what they like and you'll adjust to it. Raven.
Yes.
I want to thank you all for being here. This was so great, too. Oh, we do have time for one more? Okay, great.
Thank you.
There's a countdown clock.
He was first. We just kept skipping him.
Just quickly, Benjamin Carlton here. And I love how, queer is being accepted in the entertainment industry, but, there's so much work that still needs to be done. And we celebrate, but we sometimes forget that work. So as queer artists in the industry, are there any other issues or hurdles that you're facing that we need to be aware of, that we need to make some noise about outside of the Trump administration?
Great question.
Yeah, I feel like in our community we talk a lot to ourselves, and we're all very, educated on ourselves. But I feel like there just needs to be more diversity where people of, I guess, straight that want to come and learn about us, where they can have a neutral ground zone to where we can all talk it out and not be combative or nothing like that. I just feel like we need more, inclusive places to where it's like we can talk to each other rather than like we've talked to us in here and now we know how we want them to respect us out there, but it's like they didn't get the briefing. So it's like, we got to give, just more time with everybody, being more inclusive.
I also think we have a lot of our media and a lot of our, focus on how much things have changed and gotten better is focused to big cities that are cultural centers. And we need to remember, and I know most of us in this room know this, but I think we all need to be reminded constantly, it doesn't trickle down. And I think people in, smaller rural communities, we have a foundation that raises money for LGBTQ women and girls. We focus on youth because, and it's heartbreaking. A lot of what we do is get, LGBTQ youth to LGBTQ summer camps, and some of these kids have never met another queer person. And I think we tell ourselves because we have gay marriage and we have an enormous amount of, LGBTQ artists are starting to really make inroads in the industry and succeed, that is helping everybody. But we can't, I think those of us in the media and in positions of power need to remember that people are still struggling all the time. And they tell us, all of us do meet and greets and meet with fans day in and day out, and they are still really struggling. And we need to combat that by arming them with good stories and celebratory stories, and we need to give them resources, and we need to empower them. We need to have better representation, and we need to get the change really over the hump. But there's a lot to do, and I'm glad you said that because we forget that, because we put rainbows everywhere in people's stores and banks, and we think that we're done now, but we're not.
And just to piggyback off of that, I just think that we got to keep raising the kids. We have to support our children. We have to support the queer children that's growing up. A lot of times they don't have a support system, nobody to talk to, nobody that can support them in all the things that they're trying to do. And that's very important, just having that support system. For me, I had a very great support system, which was my mom, who will go out there and fight for me, with anybody. So we need somebody that will go out there and fight for us and that support system for our kids. The kids are our future.
Definitely. I also want to say with like the show Pose that's been out, it shows a lot of like the families and stuff like that. Yeah. And I feel like a lot of the youth don't really know where to go to find a family like that. So if we had more, public places to accept more people, I think they'll be able to come out more and know where to go.
So we're going to start a house, me and you.
Let's get it.
I think that's a really lovely note to end on, and also if you really like Pose, I think you are going to really like our next panel. Give it up for our queer headliners, our cover stars.
Thank y'all so much.